Waiting is hard. Like most people don't really like to wait. Waiting can make us bored, tired, cranky, frustrated, impatient. And maybe we can even be impatient with other people's waiting. Like, what are you waiting for? Advent is a special season of waiting. Well, maybe I think it's fair to ask, like, what are we waiting for? So, December 25th? In some ways, certainly trying to enter more deeply into that mystery of Christ coming in the flesh as one of us. But I think even more than waiting for Christmas, we're waiting for Christ. Even more than preparing for Christmas, we're preparing for Christ to come. Certainly to come at some unknown day, either at the end of our life or when he comes again in glory. And unlike December 25th, which is a date on the calendar we can kind of work our way towards, as Jesus always says, we don't know what that date's going to be, so we should always be ready. Maybe sometimes it's weird for us to think about that, but just the reality, and so maybe it's good to ponder once in a while. I think, too, Advent is a special time for us to realize that Christ wants to come into my life today, and that we have a need for that we have a need for Jesus to come and to embrace him in our lives more and more. Maybe sometimes in our spiritual life, or our life in general, maybe we can just kind of, fall asleep at the switch sometimes. It's easy to do. So this time, Advent, is a time for us to wake up a little bit in our life of faith. I think our first reading really speaks powerfully to this. Now, I know it's kind of heavy. The first reading of the first Sunday of Advent, it's like a heavy kind of a reading. But this is from Isaiah 63, when the people of Israel, they were coming back from their time in exile, but yet they recognized that they still had more work to do, or rather God had more work to do in them. So on behalf of the people, Isaiah is saying, okay, we know we're a mess. We know we're a mess. We know we screwed up. We know we've wandered from you. We know our hearts have gone in other places and saw other things, but God, we need you. And twice in our passage, it says, you are our Father. So recognizing that we belong to God, that we're brought into his family, that we have a relationship, and that God is the one who gives us life. And so we say to this God, come again. We heard, return for the sake of your servants. Rend the heavens and come down. Come and help your presence be more active in our lives again and in a new way. We remember all that you did for our ancestors when you led them out of slavery in Egypt into freedom. And God, we need you to come and bring freedom to our lives again. We heard that too in our psalm, right? Like, rouse your power and come. Come to save us. Come to bring us life again. I think that can be true for each and every one of us as well. As maybe sometimes we feel like, maybe I am a little drowsy in my spiritual life, or maybe just my life's a mess, or we just know that the world's a mess. And if we're not there now, maybe we were in the past, or we will be in the future, and we can always call upon God to come and be with us in a new way. To be able to continue to make us into the people that he has fashioned us to be. And that we hear a little bit about, I think, in our second reading, where St. Paul reminds us that we have the grace of God. The grace which is that completely free gift of God's very life and God's presence in our life. And he says we've been enriched through knowing who Jesus is. And he says we're not lacking in any spiritual gift like faith, hope, and charity. And he reminds us that we're called to fellowship with Jesus. And so I think our season of Advent can be a time to remember and to step into all that again. Into that relationship with the God who comes to bring us back to life. And so this time of Advent could be a time for us to step more being into prayer or into Mass, more deeply into being reformed and transformed by God through the sacrament of reconciliation. Maybe a special time to really embrace just the wonder of God's glory, and also then his great love for each and every one of us, for his light that shines in any darkness, bringing us to salvation, bringing us to life. Of course, we know in the Mass, in a special way, God does rend the heavens and literally come down. So as we encounter Christ here in the Mass today, let us ask for that grace and give Jesus permission to move in our lives in a new way, to continue to bring us to life, to continue to help us to grow in that fellowship with him for which we were created, to continue to reach out to those in need and so share his life with others. And really, why not today? Because what are we waiting for?